So what is going on, everybody? Captain Deadwake here. Welcome back to the channel. If you look out of the observation deck here, we got the Maggie C sitting there on the docking collar. Off to a great start. I was hoping that I had remembered to claim the ship, or that it was far enough away that I would have to claim it. But since this is an actual video, this will be much quicker. You guys don't have to worry about the process of, me offloading all of this cargo that's about to happen before we try to do a couple of missions here. It is Sunday, April 13th. Here it's 12 o'clock noon for us Eastern U.S. folks, which puts you at about 1600 for UTC time, or 4 p.m. And the whole point of this video is going to be to check out the current state of the Hull C and Star Citizen patch 4.1 after the last hotfix went back to the live build. So we will see how it goes. We're at Everest. We've had a lot of trouble. This is fantastic, actually. So we're starting this video off with one of the problems of the Hull C. When you get to the ship, you black out. This is a bug that has been affecting a lot of people. It has not been fixed. If this happens, you gotta claim the Hull C. So I'm gonna spare you all the time and frustration here. This happens. It's happened to me a bit. Happened to me on stream. Eventually, you might be thrown back into the ASOP terminal location, but this will keep happening. It's like when you get onto the Hull C, you go unconscious, you black out, you get black screened, and then repositioned. It's frustrating. Alright, my friends, checking this out. This might happen when you're trying to load back in. It is part of the annoying process in getting back into the game. You get 3018 connection timeout. You're unable to connect in. This is why it's important not to keep Alt F4ing or force closing the game. So we just got to go back to menus and try to load in again. So now we're at a state that really is unfortunate. We're getting an inactivity error 30028. So I might unfortunately be bugged to the point of needing a character repair. Yeah, there we go. Client 969-2344. My friends, we made it back into the game. That took a while. We got a couple of 3018 timeout errors, as well as 3028 or 3068. It'll be up on the screen here for you guys to see with regard to inactive player errors, like we were getting disconnected from the game for not moving around. Pain in the butt, man. Real pain in the rear just trying to get back in the game. We got really broken after that black screen. So one tip to anybody, and I'm going to probably stay tuned to the end of the video, sort of a tips and tricks list with the Hull C to make this as little a headache as possible if you do want to be as stubborn as me and keep trying to test that ship. Some of you might just say, you know what, it's time to put this ship in the garage for a while until a better patch comes out. I totally respect that. I will happily be your guy that is constantly testing the Hull C. And this is one of the problems, man, just to show you guys. This Align in Mind server, or the Align in Mind event, rather, this Sandbox World event going on, has made Everest Harbor and Seraphim Station even more busy than ever because the orbital laser platforms are in Hurston and Crusader systems around their moons, and they are a massive server drain. And this new installment to the game is the main issue with all of us on our Hull Cs. It's the server drag, which is causing there to be station-to-ship disconnects, server grid disconnects, and it's causing just a plethora of issues on our Hull Cs where we can't actually get anything done. So as they balance out the load this takes on the entire game, we'll get to a better place. What we're going to do is call out a different ship, though, to get away from this mess here, because if we call it the Hull C, it's just going to pop up at the docking port again and likely put us into another black screen. So we're just not going to give it that chance. Let's see, do I have anything that moves a little bit faster that I can quickly get my hands on? I don't think so. So that's fine. With the magic of editing, it's not even a problem. We're just going to grab our Corsair, use our awesome Hemera Quantum Drive, and zip over to Genie Point. Now, what I've taken to doing as I've learned more about how these, server client builds, hotfixes, and all work, and I'm no expert in this, so please, if you guys have information that I'm missing or just extra information for me to know, please let me know down in the comment section below. I am focusing now. You'll notice there might be a little bit of numbers on the screen here. See, I am kind of zoomed in from ultra wide, so you're not really seeing the full display info tab, but I can throw it, over the actual screen or a screenshot, which I can actually take here, that I can actually show you guys what I'm looking at to see that, with this, you can tell what shard you're in and what game client you're on. And on that real quick, let me pull the launcher over here for you guys to see. When you drag this down, when you have hotfixes and such, or PTU, you can always see the actual game client you're on. 4.1.0 live, 968.7209. Now, a funny thing that I've learned with this game client thing is that there are a bunch of different game clients running at the same time in different server shards, where I guess CIG is trying to gather data from how those different server shards are playing. Each individual hotfix were on their own game clients. 968.0058, 968.4279, which actually, in fact, I think the current live build that we're on, 968.7209, was the last hotfix build, and you would think it was the most up-to-date game client. Well, in fact, right now, we're on 969.2344, and EU server 260. So I'll probably have put the actual server shard and game client build that I'm playing on, maybe at the bottom of the screen somewhere, so you guys can keep an eye on that. And the reason I wanted to show that was because I think that by being on the most recent client build, I can give a more accurate representation of the most current state of the game and the whole sea and everything else. Now, if you're like me and you're curious about how to get this information, I will put that up on the screen right now too, as we're waiting for the Drake Corsair. You know, you can use our display info from 0 through 4. 0 returns you back to just your regular game screen with nothing on there, and then 1 through 4 all show different levels of information in the top right corner regarding your game. You can see your server FPS, how many people are in the game, where the game is registering your character, as well as the actual client build you're on, and even the actual server shard. Typically, I'll just use display info 2. That has everything that I care about. But again, you can do 1 through 4 and kind of play around with what you want to see. And I've now taken to using that again just to see kind of what client build I'm on. That way I can get an idea of how things are performing on the different builds. And it takes a while because I can't just choose what shard I'm in. I actually spent the last, how long was I doing this? I have been recording for 1 hour and 15 minutes. And in that time, I have gotten into this 969.2344 shard twice. The first time when the screen blacked out on the whole sea, and then finally now, after all that shenanigans and server hopping probably 10-15 times, to randomly land in it again, which this one I've only found on the EU servers. On the US servers today, I'm basically just getting 967.2945, which was the old live client build, and even the 966.1546, which is the current designated game state. And I don't really know what that means. I really just know the different client builds of the game that are running, and I hope we get some live server maintenance or something to shut all that down and just put all of the servers on the most recent build, because it has got to be such a drag on the game to be running all of those at the same time. All right, we'll go ahead and skip ahead to the fun part with the Corsair, heading to Bygenie Point so we can get into this whole sea test. And the reason I'm heading to Bygenie Point is very specific. I had the idea when just kind of taking some feedback from people in the community as well as in game that some people are having success with the lower tier missions. Not lower tier as in doing the really small loads, but like doing the lesser experienced missions, where you've got quite a bit going from like Bygenie to Everest or whatever. But there are some that are direct solar large, I believe, kind of like this one. They pay quite a bit more. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Missions like this. Here we go. Direct solar large haul with 1,800 SU of cargo from Everest Harbor to Port Tressler. Now, we're not doing Everest Harbor for obvious reasons previously mentioned, with the massive server drag right there in Crusader and Hurston systems. That's affecting everywhere, but very, very rough around Seraphim Station and Everest Harbor, Lorville, Orison. So we're going to try to find the one that is about this size from Bygenie to Port Tressler, or Tressler to Bygenie, or whatever, something around that. Well, it looks like, as Chris Roberts would have it, we don't have the option to run Bygenie to Tressler today. We've got Bygenie to Everest, Seraphim to Everest, Everest to Tressler, all hinged around Everest, which go figure. I've often said Everest is sort of the central hub for whole sea pilots with our direct missions. We can't get around that today, so we're going to try that. I'm going to use the magic of editing to speed us up to being past the claim time on the whole sea. So we'll go ahead and pick up there. Alright guys, after a ton of shenanigans, here we are. We finally got the very temperamental Maggie C in our large hangar with no cargo attached to it, hopefully no blackout issue. And we're going to try to run this mission from Bygenie to Everest. And I really wish that these weren't all going to Everest today. But this is a video to show the current state of the whole sea. So it actually makes sense. It's a good thing to go to Everest and show you the current state of trying to offload there, as well as potentially pick up there. Because I think there is an Everest to Port Tressler mission. So we might do that as well. Which, as long as the quantities aren't above the cap of the whole sea, I'll probably just go ahead and spool that up too, so we can try to show what it's like doing a drop-off and a pickup, which, when the servers are healthy, it works just fine. Keyword there being when or if. And here we go. Experience direct solar large from Everest to Tressler. And yeah, that won't overdo our capacity. So these are about the payouts you're looking at with these. and they should be relatively simple, quick missions, so you can still make a lot of money if it's working properly. But that's what we're going to test, you know, outside of the Gateway Interstellar stuff that's been bugging us forever. And if it has the same behaviors as those, that makes this all the simpler. So we're going to go ahead and continue here. We are tracking the correct mission by Genie to Everest. Let's get out of here and load this up. We're going to go ahead and start expanding as we angle towards our cargo section. And it looks like once we came out, the grid is automatically populated for us. Which should be over here to port. There it is. Kind of normally happens when you're leaving your hangar. Since there's an issue with the station's services kind of being tied together sometimes with the whole sea. You're requesting your standard docking or landing as well as requesting cargo loading. So that is part of the communication issues I think they need to fix on the back end to make this a more reliable system. Yeah, there are a couple of turrets around. Just going to be real careful to make sure that we don't carelessly run into anything. Don't need any more challenges on this playthrough. Let's slow down here, get ourselves angled. Now your orientation in the box doesn't matter, shouldn't matter. In the PTU testing, I came in all sorts of ways, crooked and otherwise, and it was fine. So it's a lot of placebo to think that coming into the box and being like centered and parallel is what you need to do. So off to a decent start. We'll see if this continues. But we're getting our onload. The box did disappear. See, Genie is not directly in the load of this Align and Mine event. So I don't know how much it's really affected server-wise. Now, the entirety of Stanton's system is obviously affected. Otherwise, our runs between Magnus, Terra, and Pyro gateways wouldn't be so adversely affected by everything going on with Align and Mine. You know, and our whole sea days would be happy and glorious, and we'd all be making a lot of money. So I don't want to write off or overly state that Genie is probably good because it's not Everest or Seraphim. It likely has its own issues. But right now, so far, we're fortunately loading up. We're going to give it a sec too. There are cases where when you're filling up, you might think that you're all done, but it might not have populated all the boxes. And I can see a little like tiny one skew there. We got what looks like a 16. So be patient. Even if it says you're all loaded and good to go, sometimes you kind of have to crack out the calculator. Now we are on the dark side of the planet, which would be a real pain if we needed to try to do any math, because we don't really have a good view of everything on the ship. But I like to kind of go around with the mouse in third person to see that we are still loading up. So hopefully we just continue as normal. One of the signs that you are truly done is when the grid fully comes back on its own and cargo transfer marked as complete. Now, even if you have all the boxes on board, there is a chance that when you go and you drop off, it will say that you've only done a little percentage of the total amount. If there is anything you guys take away from this video today, do not partial submit. I would say unless you're this, that, or the other, but no. For anybody, especially if you're not as familiar with hauling, just don't partial submit. I will caveat this for those who are willing to take a little bit of risk, but there are too many people that have been in the comments of my videos or even in-game that have lost their rep or had their rep tanked down several degrees and they have to grind all the way back up again. I'll tell you exactly what is causing that. That is when you go in to your contracts and for some reason decide to hit the submit button. Like if I hit this submit button right now with nothing completed, that is going to massively impact my rep. It's going to tank me. Do not hit the submit button. Any beginners out there, just ignore the submit button. If you're having any issues at all with your load, you abandon it. Or, better yet, back to menus, log it back in, and just go about your business. Claim your ship, whatever you got to do. Do not hit this button unless you want to risk losing all your rep. That is what's happening to you, my friends. So, if anything you remember from this video or take away from it, this button is extremely dangerous. Now, for those of you who understand this part, over 75% of the load delivered, you can submit and not lose the rep. Over 75%. And that is kind of like the understood amount in the community. I haven't actually seen anywhere where that's like the number, the guaranteed number. So take that with a grain of salt. When I am offloading, typically I'm hitting that submit button and I'm in the upper 90s. Like 98, 99% of the load has been dropped off. That is where I feel a warm and fuzzy for hitting the submit button. And even with 99% of your load dropped off, you're getting like 30-40% of the value of the mission taken away, and you're not going backwards in rep. So it's just this button in general is dangerous. Now, if you're doing an 80-90% drop off of one of these 700k missions, it makes sense because you're still gonna make like 500k. You can go about your life. You didn't lose any rep. Carry on to the next mission. But if you have any issue where even if it looks like all your cargo is off of your ship, everything is submitted, but it's reflecting like 30 out of 1700 or 0 out of 1700 or any kind of shenanigans like that, do not touch submit. I can't say that enough. Just abandon, take the loss on that time-wise for that hauling mission, and just carry on. Go into another one. It is not worth losing all of your rank, your rep, going down back into junior member, whatever the case. So I really hope that sticks. Alright, now that I have incessantly ranted about not hitting the submit button, let's go ahead and head over to Hurston here and see if we can drop off this 1700 load of processed food. Here we are at the dreaded Everest Harbor. Hopefully this offload is successful. We got Top Salsa here, given his positioning likely in a Hull C. What's up, fellow Hull C captains? Say hey to the chat, say hey to Top Salsa. Might not be actually in the chat, so who knows. Going to kick those afterburners on. We'll slow down pretty rapidly with our lighter load here. Now, given we've got a second mission that'll pick up from here, we're also going to be able to see how this handles an offload-onload stack. Which, again, when the servers are healthy, it's wonderful. Rotate ourselves around here to our big blue grid. Alright, good decel. Full burn stop. Engage our parking brake. Little wiggle. Hands off sticks. So we just got to be patient. Okay, there we go. Now we're not registering that we're stopped yet, which is fine. I'll give it a little vertical strafe. I typically like to do a vertical strafe or an aft strafe rear to detect that we're stopped. And then just be patient. If you want, you can always try hopping out of your seat to make sure that your character and all is properly synced with the server. Really weird little thing, but it's legit. You just hop out and hop back in, and sometimes that'll actually initiate your onload or offload. But other times, most of the time it hasn't, because the problems go deeper than just your player not being synchronized. Alright, this is one of the issues that has been plaguing players, is the fact that it just will never get to a point to where it registers that you are fully stopped. So I'm going to zip ahead in time for you guys a little bit to getting another cargo grid to see if maybe we can spawn one that's working. Alright, we got loading area revoked. We got far enough away out of the armistice. Now we need to make sure that that text actually goes off screen. I don't want it to remember that we had a cargo box or anything. So we're going to start heading back now to request another grid. Another little tip for everybody that I'll try to remember for the end of the video is to, give it a scan when you're nightside, because you might not realize when you're down here, you're actually heading right at the station. If you don't calculate that stop-in time, that's a bad day. There we go. All right, requesting a new box actually did help in this case. So we are starting our offload, and then we will see if we, I think it's smart enough, it should be smart enough to complete the offload before it starts to onload. But this is one of the reasons that if you're stacking missions with higher quantities, you want to make sure you don't exceed the whole C's capacity. Because if the game does some dumb thing where it wants to start stacking while it's offloading, you get stuck in this sort of pause loop where I've had to actually abandon the mission where I'm going to be onloading. That way the game registers that it needs to offload. So, looks like so far we're okay. We are still offloading boxes. So what I did there is I went far enough away, about 10 kilometers out, to reset the cargo grid area because whatever box I was in just wasn't registering as stopping. So that way, once it was revoked and properly revoked, we were able to come back and, oh boy, get a new grid. Sorry to finish that thought. So this is another example. We are a little over 300 SCU short here. So I'm moving us around. It says cargo transfer complete. Just to see if we can offload any other boxes. But we still have that other mission. So now when we come to a stop, it should start actually onloading the new mission. Let's see. 1425. I'm using my phone here. I'm going to do some good old-fashioned math. 1425 divided by 1745 is 81.6%. This is a case where I feel confident, and we'll see what happens. We're going to look at our rep real quick. I'm going to be careful with this stuff. So we're here about senior rank, little ways away. We're going to go to contracts, and I'm going to hit the forbidden button because I did the math. We are at about 82%, well over the 75 threshold. Now that I submit, it should start actually onloading the next mission as well. So we'll check our rep in a second here. Oh, we're getting an impound area. Or impound, even though we have another mission. So let's blitz out of here. Hopefully we get away in time to not get our ship impounded. We'll give it a sec. Pop the scan to make sure we're not going to run into anything. Going to go ahead and hit couple just to bring us to a stop while we look at this. So contract-wise, this one completed, so to speak. Well, now we still have this one, which is an Everest to Port Tressler pickup. Now, it didn't automatically start picking us up once we submitted that mission. Let's also, while we're thinking about it, go into our rep, Kovalex, Senior. Not really a change, which is kind of expected. We did make a little bit of money. You know, it did impact us. I didn't see what we were at, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to put it up on screen to show you how much we made versus how much we were supposed to make. It's about 245 or 248. In fact, whichever one this one is, it was the opposite. So 245. So it was the 248K. So I'll actually put up on screen the percentage loss of what just happened with about 80% of our load. Well, let's go ahead and do our final bit of testing here to wrap up this video, because a lot of the issues are the same across the board, whether you're dealing with the larger missions or the smaller. We're going to go ahead and zip in here and try to grab up this next one. Now, it is usually the case when you've got a box like this that it'll start to onload, but that's probably only if the game actually communicates properly to show that you fully offloaded and completed the previous contract, and it's a seamless thing. But since it was a partial, because it didn't register that I had all the goodies, I had to leave to avoid being impounded and then request another grid, which I'm not really upset about, because sometimes requesting another grid should just be standard operating procedure. I wish there was a way to cancel and recall a grid without having to go as far, but you know, ideally you shouldn't have to do any of this anyway. I just go ahead and hit coupled there to bring us to a stop, because I know we'll be within the grid when we come to that stop. At least we should be. We're kind of just outside it, so I'll boost us forward a bit. Oh! It actually didn't take some of the boxes. See, that's why it pays to kind of pay attention. Now, this next load isn't going to start because we actually do have boxes on here that the game didn't take. We're going to do another check. This is another issue that does happen, which I'm glad that Maggie C and I are able to show you guys all this. So I'm going to do a little dumb fire of my tractor beam. Sweet. So we can actually do this here. Sometimes it won't let you fire your tractor rifle, your tractor guns. You'll just get a little misfire sound. If that happens, you got to go into SCM mode and use your actual ship's tractor beams to do this. Maybe I can just put these back on the ship after, because I don't want to litter, especially in these loading areas. That is another kind of PSA that I have for everybody, is if you have to offload your entire whole sea for whatever reason, please don't do it in these zones where we're trying to load and offload cargo. I will just put these back on the ship and carry them with us, because this next load isn't going to completely fill us. I'm going to put these down here together. And if by some chance you don't know how I'm zipping around out there, I'm just right-clicking with the tractor beam, which basically makes you like a space Spider-Man. And cling onto stuff and pull yourself forward, which is nice. Let's jiggle around a little bit, see if we can get this infinite loading tick to resolve itself, which is the other main issue that we often run into. Sometimes it's caused by there being some other cargo on board. Sometimes it's just a station disconnect where it's not registering that you need to be unloading. So we're going to try to rectify this by actually moving the ship, getting the grid to show itself. There we are. We're back. And now we're going to try to come to another stop and see if we can trigger a proper unload. Alright, just to be somebody who sticks to my own words here, I'm going to throw that stuff back on my ship real quick. Move us outside of our cargo zones. We're going to get another box, and I'm going to throw these excess boxes away. It might have caused a bit of a sticking point, quite literally, where we're getting this infinite loading tick. So again, with the editing magic at my disposal, I'm going to go ahead and throw this stuff away outside of the cargo areas. Yeah, there it is. We got impounded. Alright, well, you know, this should at least give us the chance to spawn up a different loading zone. Let's see where it actually puts our ship, and hopefully it's not a blackout fail. If it is, well, that's about everything you guys need to see for the current state of the Hull Sea. This is a little bit of deja vu, isn't it? Back at Everest Harbor, docking port 1, heading towards our empty Hull Sea here, and honestly, just kind of hoping we don't go unconscious the second we cross that threshold. Making sure I put my helmet on just in case. And there it is. What better way to come to a conclusion on the current state of the Hull Sea than to bring it full circle right back around to the black screen of doom here. With that, we're just going to go ahead and speed through a couple of tips and pointers. I'll talk real quick about the Hull Sea as it currently is. Keep in mind, you know, if you do blackout like this, you would Alt F4 back to load in, which can take a while. Again, running into several 3018s, you know, login timeouts, and even inactivity timeouts and such. What I ended up doing the first time this happened was I did something else for like 20-30 minutes and chilled, completely got off the game, reset the RSI launcher and everything. And then when I came back in, I wasn't shard locked or whatever. I could actually hop into any shard I wanted. So that was nice. At least I wasn't stuck. Now, when you're in this sort of login lock state, you don't want to keep Alt F4ing and continuing the shard lock on your character's avatar. That just makes things worse. It's really best to, even worst case, submit a character repair through your actual account on the RSI website. Give it a couple hours, go do something else. You know, don't make yourself more stressed out than you already are trying to play with this ship. Now, to avoid this headache altogether, if you're logging in the game and you go to call your whole C like we did at the start of this video, and it is actually at a docking port, whether it had cargo on it previously or shouldn't like it did here, don't even go to your whole C. Hop into another ship, race to a different station, claim your whole C, you know, wait the 15 minutes to get your ship reset, and you'll avoid this altogether. This will save you a whole lot of time dealing with black screens, load in, shard locking, resets, character, blah, 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 all the stuff. Just, if you log into your game, or for whatever reason, currently as it stands, end up getting impounded, and you're, you know, stuck having to call your ship to a docking caller, even if it costs you the mission you're on, it is going to be less of a headache to just fly somewhere else and claim your ship than it is to go through this process of trying to get back in the game once you're black screened. Now, there is a chance if you sit here and just wait on the black screen for a good 20-30 minutes, it'll actually reposition you in that same shard, and you can go about your day. But I still would not try to get back on the whole C again. I've done that, and it just sends you right back into the black screen. So just avoid it altogether if you can. Go to another station, claim the whole C, and try to start fresh. In that same vein, guys, you know, if you're going to be leaving the game, I would try to at least maybe claim your whole C or start the claim process before you actually log out. Like, don't leave game close to the station with cargo on it, because then it is going to end up spawning you at the docking caller, because sometimes it'll just capture your ship if you're just back into menus from your ship and you're close enough to the station. So, you know, if you can, even if it means just crashing into something to blow it up or whatever, however you want to leave game, just don't leave it in a state where there's cargo on board. Because also, if you're logging back into the game from a bedlog state, if you can, with the current issue with it detecting you're near a landing zone, it's really hard to even bedlog to begin with. But when you come back into the game, whether it's bedlog or Alt F4, your ship's in a permanent closed state until you do dock. It's all a mess. It's a mess. It's just the only real way to get around that is to, I don't know, backspace to respawn somewhere and claim the ship, or blow up the ship and claim it, something. You're going to have to claim the whole C to get around these kinds of bugs. Now, the big thing that is, again, causing this major drag on the servers with how they're communicating station to station, station to ship, our whole Cs, and even our other ships where there's bedlog issues, it all has to do with the server drag, or the server load, due to align and mine and everybody trying to do this kind of sandbox event, and the drag on the actual server performance that the lasers themselves have if they're fired off. Captain Kuz has told me several times that it drops his frames down to 1 when those lasers are firing. So when you think about everything that's going on, most of us knew when this 4.1 patch was going to hit that it was going to break a lot of stuff, because even though this is a stability and playability focused year, there's a lot of new feature content brought in with 4.1, or 4.1, sorry. Looking forward to 4.1 testing to hopefully resolve and balance some of this out. So I hope this is maybe an extra check for the devs to realize, yeah, we really do want to limit the features and focus on playability, because we've already broken the game again. You know, we're in April with this monthly patch cadence and basically in a broken state for a lot of things. I haven't messed as much with the mining, but I know I've seen in the global chat and game that like ground mining and planetary mining, asteroid mining, and all that stuff has been busted too with everything going on. And I know they're trying to hotfix and do a lot of things. Hopefully we get an actual server maintenance that kills all of the clients and resets all of the extra resources that are bugged and running around in like the 5 or 6 different game clients that are currently active, and just gets rid of all the excess crap and puts us all in the same build. That way maybe it'll clean things up. But what to expect if you're actually in your whole C and going mission to mission is maybe the off chance that you will be able to partial submit like we did for that one mission. Probably still better not to stack, even if it's not going to exceed the quantity of the ship, just because it's causing more of a back-end load with the server trying to communicate with offload and onload for your grid. Just stick to one mission at a time. And I've had the same sort of luck, whether I'm doing the 240, 250k mission station to station, or even station to gateway, as I have with the bigger 700k missions station to station. or like, Everest to Pyro, Magnus, Terra, all of them. You're either going to have the issue where it's not detecting that you're stationary, which we were able to get around to complete one mission by leaving Armistice and calling another box. Another way you can do that is just quantum out and quantum back and call another box. It all comes down to calling a different grid. Hopefully one of them is communicating right. It's similar in a lot of ways to the elevator problems, like you'll call one elevator and it's just not responding, and then you call the elevator next to it and it shows up. That kind of seems to be a similar occurrence with the cargo grids, so keep that in mind. If you're getting the infinite tick glitch or the perma-tick, where it's just constantly doing the little flicking electronic tick sound trying to onload or offload, most of the times you're just SOL in those cases. I haven't really had a way to consistently work around that. Quantuming out, quantuming back in, getting different boxes, getting out of your seat, trying to pull grids and such. There's just such a communication backlog issue going on that you're just, again, SOL. So in those cases, you abandon the mission and just restart if you haven't onloaded yet, or have to go somewhere and yoink all the stuff off of your ship and then abandon it or back to menus. And I'm saying this because do not, again, if you somehow didn't catch the message earlier, hit the submit button unless you know for a fact that you're well over that 75% threshold and will not get your rep hit for it. Those of you who have lost rep, it's because you're hitting submit when you do not have anywhere near the amount you need to avoid that, which again seems to be that 75% mark. That seems to be how it's coded in. If you're submitting with it showing like 0 out of 2,000 or even 30 out of 2,000, or you see all the boxes go away and then it only reflects 30 or 40 SCU and you take a chance, just know you're going to lose all your rep. Just don't do it. Just abandon or exit to menus. Those do not affect your rep. I've tested it a million times on 4.0, 4.01, 4.02, 4.1. When abandoning starts to actually negatively impact your rep, I will let you know for sure. And you'll probably see it from several other people too. The submit button is your enemy. That is a great way to have to regrind through everything all over again. So on all these issues and tips and stuff going on, if that's the one thing you can take away from is avoid submit. Just avoid it. It's just not worth it. When in doubt, back out. Just back out to menus and start over. Do something else, different gameplay loops. And ultimately, guys, this might be the thing that we all need to do, is park the whole sea for a little while, because it's going to stress you out. It's not the moneymaker that it could be, and if you are oh so inclined to take your chance at doing commodities trading with it, that is on you. I expect you to be one of the people asking for money from other players if you continue to do that, because it's going to come around and bite you in the rear. I hope it doesn't. I hope it hasn't. I hope you've made a lot of money, but just keep in mind the risk that you're imparting on yourself with the current state of the game. I will continue to test out the whole sea, because that is what I want to focus on this channel: the hauling, the industrial gameplay, keeping everybody abreast of how the ship's performing. And then the rest of the content's going to be messing around with other gameplay loops, mining, salvage, taking out the Drake Corsair for some bounty hauling, where I go for VHRTs and such and pull the goodies off the ships and take them home. So there's a lot of stuff still to do, a lot of fun to be had. But amidst all that, I will be testing the whole sea continually, especially as the PTU drops hopefully soon for 4.11, and I can see how it's playing there. Granted, it played really well on the 4.10 PTU as well, but that's how it is, because the PTU isn't as stressed as the live build, which should be pretty intuitive to everybody. I won't take up any more of your time though, guys. I hope you did enjoy this video for what it was. Things to avoid, things to expect with the whole sea, and maybe realizing that it's just not worth the stress right now. Give it some time, allow all this stuff to balance out, and we'll try again later. But I will see you guys out in the verse. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you later. Wow! Right there at the end of the video, it did the thing that I said it might do, where if you wait long enough, it will just kind of reposition you back into the ASOP terminal. So yeah, there's the proof in the pudding, guys. Keep that in mind. Might help avoid the whole shard locking thing, or the issue of being stuck out of game. Just, yeah, don't get back in the whole sea. Fly somewhere else and claim your ship. Now, seriously, take care.